Welcome everyone to the most awaited section of Rising 2024. I am beyond thrilled to be hosting this fireside chat today on lessons in bravery, integrity, and leadership with Dr. Kiran Bedi. For several of us in the audience today, having grown up in the 80s and 90s, Indian households echoed with Dr. Bedi's name, a pioneering example held high for girls and young women. Ma'am, your journey as the first woman IPS officer and your championed community policing and implementation of prison reform initiatives have inspired generations to dream of a more just and equitable world. And with that, Dr. Bedi, we will begin this conversation. Your achievements are multifaceted. You started playing tennis at the age of 9, and you went on to champion the Asian Lawn Tennis Championship. But then you shattered a glass ceiling. You became the first woman IPS officer, joining in a batch where there were 80 other men. What motivated you to pursue such a non-traditional path in your career?
Let me begin by saying how grateful I am for being invited to such a wonderful conference, which is a way ahead of its time. Still, you are in step with time, but you were ahead of your time. Your magazine, as I gathered and researched most creditable to the founders. We want to say thank you to the young founders. And I was wondering, when did you found? Sab school mein the kya? You husband-wife team, what a wonderful team you are, and you got your baby with you. And so, in fact, I became curious to find out from you, why did you start this? How did you start this? And what made you start? Because that time analytics and data, etc., was just being talked about. And you started data analytics. This is just brilliant. And then came the artificial intelligence, and you became a subset of that. So want to say thank you for inviting me. Good, I'm glad we have more light now. Now, your question was, what made me join the service?
A non-traditional path, which back then
because I was non-traditional.
You can see that
I had to be. It was a very visionary family, full of girls, no boys. We were 4 sisters, but when I was growing up, I was 3, and the 4th came much later. But it was a tennis-playing family, also one of the most unique tennis-playing families of girls in the country. And I didn't belong to a tier 1 city. I belonged to Amritsar. And my father used to be a tennis player, and he used to play tennis. He used to leave work midway and go to tennis. So tennis was breakfast, dinner, lunch, everything. So we grew up playing tennis, and as soon as I could hold my racket, Daddy sent me to tennis court without even asking, should I go there? So Papa was on the court, Mummy was on the court, we sisters were on the court, the school bag was on the court. So school bag to tennis, and tennis home. And as I grew up, home meant jogging, walking, cycling. See, so much came at the age of 10, 11, 12. No girls were doing it that time. That was the difference. And what I did while jogging back, I was seeing reality. And I was also seeing how different I was. And as I grew up, I was sensitive. You see, I didn't dislike people. I wasn't skeptic. But I was aware of what's going on. Where am I born in? What kind of society am I born in? Where girls are nowhere. But why am I there? Thanks to my parents. So this is how its sensitivity, I think, grew up. But I was an outdoor girl. I was no more an indoor girl. I was all the time in tennis frocks. And I was in track suits. There was never something which was wrapping me around. So that's how it was.
Absolutely. So, ma'am, following your historic entry into the IPS, you served various roles, including the narcotics officer, training, traffic police chief. Did you ever face moments when you questioned your own ability to succeed in a male-dominated field? And if yes, how did you overcome those challenges?
It was never questioning my ability till now. I've never ever questioned my own ability. I think I learned to value myself. The key was I learned to value who I was right from my childhood. And I grew up so confidently, taking on whatever came my way. So as I was growing up, I took the obstacles as I came. That is why girls to be outdoor early on with sports and put into outdoor and mobility makes them strong. So I don't even know when did I get to become strong. I was born strong in a way, growing strong. That was how it different. So that's where it made all the difference. That so I was going more confident than the boys, and I realized I was better than many of them, and I would help them in many ways.
Yes. Absolutely. Ma'am, and in that journey, were there any experiences you faced which would have been of discrimination by the virtue of you being a woman at your workplace? Because when we work in the corporate, yes, we have all reached a much more balanced corporate today than it would have been back, in 90s or early 2000s. In your time, was there any kind of a discrimination that you would have felt by the virtue of your gender, if at all? Any experiences? Or
I
none
didn't.
At all?
I saw it.
Yeah.
I didn't, because I was immune to getting. First of all, I accepted things as a reality, but I saw my cousins being discriminated. I went to the best school, most expensive school, but my cousins didn't go to the best school because the father said, no need. We got enough property to marry you off. So I saw discrimination around, and I was aware of this discrimination, but I thought I was gifted. And I built on my gifts, because I realized very early that I have been gifted, because what I'm getting is not my creation. But that is why I remained ever grateful to whatever I got. So gratitude became a part of my, not condemnation, not complaining, but also helping others, but also making the most of what I was being gifted. So I think the positive nature, positivity also grew with me. So that also stood me great stead, that I started to realize being grateful and remaining positive and continue to do. So I saw discrimination around. My friends, they were being taught needlework and knitting. In my Sacred Heart school, Catholic school, I was the only one who protested against knitting, and I would run away from a knitting class. I would run away from an embroidery class because I wanted to play. And the nuns had to catch me back from saying, sit and finish the knitting. Because if you remember those days, Catholics only had knitting and embroidery. I didn't want it. So every time I would run away from the school, go to my grandmother saying, you knit this for me, and I will go and give it. See, I was a resistant. So I was resisting this, that why am I being made to stitch and knit and sit down when I can run and play? So running and playing is very important.
Absolutely. And ma'am, fast forward to today. When it comes to boardrooms of the Indian corporate sector, there are researchers that say only 5% of women have made it to the top management. Only 7% make it to senior executives. We keep talking about these problems years over years, but the numbers are stagnant. They don't really grow dramatically, grow drastically. What is your viewpoint of solving this problem? Does it lie in the way we do parenting or we receive parenting? Is it a collective problem that corporates and parents and societies and women themselves need to solve? What's your viewpoint? How we can change this?
Women who grow up making career their first priority. That's the key. For me, I grew up making my career, being self-reliant, self-sufficient, making right to the top. My first priority. Nothing else mattered to me. I got married, but I got married to say, we equal partners, right? I'm not cooking for you, you're not cooking for me. I'm not running the home for you, you're not running the home for me. We will have the home run. Yeah. See, but it was a second priority. So for me, I'm not saying on the right and wrong of it, but I was very clear in my mind, what is it that will not be my priority? Work, career was my priority. I'd grown up being educated, playing, for what? To make my own career, to make my own name, to create a place for myself in the sun, and not to be one of the ordinary people. So I was never ever growing up to be one of the crowd. So that therefore remained. My husband and I were tennis friends. And why did I marry him? Because he let me take his turn. And he was accommodating. He was a sportsman. Had he not done that, I wouldn't have chosen him. So the point is, I found he was not going to control me. I'm not going to control him. He's not going to. So what happens? Had I not been this, there were umpteen reasons to fall back and not make it to the Director General of Police at all. Remember, it's not that all hunky-dory. When I got married, became a mother, by the time my daughter was only 3 years old, she got nephrotic syndrome, which meant that kidneys were not fully functional. And she was not well. She was missing school. Now, what is the choice I had? Do I stay back home to look after her? Or do I make arrangements that she's fully looked after her under my supervision? But also, Mummy moved in. So my mother stepped in. The family support which I received is something which was welcomed. So this is, I think, I would have never made it to the top in my career for two things. A, I had not prioritized my career, come what may. Second, not having family support. So my mother and father left Amritsar and moved to Delhi because they thought, this is what we brought Kiran up for. Now if we don't move in, then all that investment Kiran has made into herself or we made into our daughter, she would lag behind. So my parents moved in. This is what family support is all about. And Mummy was there at home, I was at work. So my daughter had a mother, and now she had two mothers. She had a grandmother full-time with her, and she had me working. So here was I, a provider. I was a mother and a provider. So I think I would have never made it to the boardroom. Which is important is, look, we women have to make choices. What is most important to me? What is most important then falls into the priority. And then how can I handle other priorities which I may choose? So we don't make it to the boardroom because we don't get the kind of family support we do. And therefore what happens? We become mothers without planning for management. You see, that's called management. Every child is a project. And do you know what? Even husbands are projects. They're all projects. So don't you do project management? So why should we get into projects without management? So what happens when the project consumes you? Then you're running after the project and the project runs ahead. But remember, marriage is a project. Motherhood is a project. It's a fact. I'm not anti any one of them. I'm for it, but I'm better for better planning and management. Motherhood must be planned. And if you're married and you've got families with you, please welcome them. Find a place for them and give them all that will make them happy so that they stay at home with you. Keep giving them birthday gifts, anniversary gifts, etc. And I did what Indira Nui said later, because I'm older than Indira. And Indira said it in her book. Do you know what? How she managed? She had 2 children and she had the Pepsi, and for her, career was first. So when I read through the book, she's exactly said that. How was she managing the children? First, her husband was very accommodating. He moved along with her career, ensuring that she doesn't lose her top position. Secondly is, families took turns. Uncles, aunts, etc., parents took turns to look after the children. And how did they keep the relatives happy? Take them out for shopping time to time. So, she says now the world is, for working women for whom career is the first, family support or community support or collective support is so much essential. Otherwise, they can't make it to the top. So if you want to make it to the top boardrooms, ensure home is a project. Even home management is a project where you provide for services. You pay for services so that you buy time. You don't burn time. You buy time. You read, you relax, you read, you have your home organized, and you have your food served the way you would like to be. So you don't burn time, you buy time. So I was always buying time. But in the process, what was I doing? That's the crux of my conversation for you. I was saving my energy. I was generating my energy. I was recharging my energy. And when you recharge energy, you save energy, you generate energy, where will it go? It will go back to your career. And that's how you make it to the C-suite. Because you are constantly upskilling yourself. You're mobile while your home remains your support, while your relationships remain intact. Because that's where it was a part of the planning and project making. So all that is done together, you constantly move up. But if you don't have this energy management, you are exhausting out, you're burning out, and by the time you're middle, children hold you back, husbands hold you back, relatives hold you back, and you stay back. Because this is a biological issue. So if you have to be totally career conscious, prioritize that in all possible ways while balancing all others and providing for. That's my key, and that was the reason I made it to the top.
Thank you, ma'am. Very, very practical suggestions indeed. Now, talking about management, there were several initiatives that you launched throughout your career. Reforms, the prison reforms that you brought about, the open door policies that you had when you were making these reforms. Even in the corporate world, when leaders are tasked to make take some initiatives, make some reforms in the ways of working, etc., there's this concept of managing upwards, which is your superiors, managing downwards, which is your subordinates, and also your peers. And there is always a conflict. There may be situations when our integrity is at stake, or we have to take difficult, tough decisions. How did you maneuver through not just having an idea and a concept of a reform, but taking it down to the ground level and actually implementing it with success?
Look, the purpose of my joining the Indian Police Service never changed. I had a clear purpose. It was provide justice as soon as possible to the person in need. So therefore, show them the rule of law, serve the people, but love my work and respect. That purpose never changed, despite a lot of challenges which came. Even though there were, let's say, adversities which came my way. But the purpose never changed. While I dealt with those risks and adversities, purpose never changed. Let me give you an example. Many times I got some very interesting international invitations as in a particular position, and the bureaucracy would not let me go. Those days, things have changed a little, but those days the bureaucrats started to ask me, and I was pretty junior, I was in the middle level, and the senior most level, for instance, let me give you a concrete example. I was invited by President Clinton for a breakfast meeting in the White House. And I was then Inspector General Prisons. And the invitation came with ticket and everything, because they thought I was running the prison so well that it was observing human rights. So from a human rights angle, they wanted me to come and then address the gathering. So it came directly from White House. The foreign secretary of that time called me and said, "Why have you got this invitation?" I said, "Aap unse pucho, mujhe kyun पूछते?" He said, "But हमको तो नहीं आया." तो I said, "फिर आप उनको चिट्ठी लिखो कि आपको भी बुला लें." And my ticket, everything was paid till the last minute, and my luggage was packed because I did not know when would they say yes. They just did not let me go. They didn't even say no. They didn't even say yes. Did I lose enthusiasm in my service? No. The suitcases were at the porch of my house, because you never know, last minute they say go. To pick the bag and go. But I had the bags packed. I still have the visual of my bags at my porch, house porch. And till 9 o'clock, which I used to leave for work, nothing came. I drove to my work. To hell with them. So I drove to my work. I entered my prison work and I walked into a women ward. And guess what happened? The women ward was celebrating. And they were saying, I said, "What are you celebrating? Kya ho raha hai tumhe?" Bole, "Ma'am, aaj na Maria release ho gayi." Maria was a Spanish woman. She was in the prison. She's got released. I started to have fun with them. I forgot that President Clinton had invited and the ticket had got cancelled and I had put my luggage. The purpose of my work never left me. These challenges came, but the purpose never came. I never sulked. I never complained. I said, "You've done what was within your power. I have done what is nearest to me." So I went. Then guess what happened? Because I let it pass, they thought she'll create a ruckus and she'll create issues. I didn't talk about it. I said, to hell with it. Such invitations, if I deserve them, will come again. And sure enough, 1 year after, when I got the Ramon Magsaysay Award in 1994, the invitation came again. For the reason, I never let that kind of a deficiency enter the mindset of the purpose of my work. My purpose of my work was to continue to give best to my client, my consumer, my beneficiaries. Here, the beneficiaries were my prisoners, who had nothing to give me, but I had everything to give them. So if you continue with this spirit of positivity and never say die, and let things happen, they may be happening for good. I will continue with my dauntless and continue with the right kind of attitude. Things start coming back to you, and they come back rewarded. So I think that is what has kept me going. So therefore, what was I doing every day? Why was I getting loved by my work? Because I was finding solutions every day. I was creating innovations every day. I was finding ways to do better every day. I was communicating every day. I was visible every day. I was field working every day. And I was mobile every day. And I was solving problems every day. Every day there was something new which I created as a leader, whether in policing or prisons. So that is what leadership is all about, with the right attitude. Then things don't overtake you.
Right. Ma'am, resilience, courage, bravery, these are the emerging themes of our conversation today. What is your viewpoint? Do you think some of these leadership traits that we talked about now can be trained? You can train people, you can coach people to get these values, or these are inborn traits that people are born with and you can only hone those skills?
You see, as I told you, that was very important for me to take you back to my school time. I was learning to be brave every day. I was learning to be confident every day. Without saying learning, I'm learning confidence. But by doing, by putting yourself into sometimes adversity and challenges, and never losing hope, and looking at the brighter side of the end of the tunnel, you start looking for solution and not the problem. So you, every time, remember the time to grow is when you encounter a problem. Time to grow is not when the road is free. It's like learning driving. Learning driving on a lovely highway is very smooth driving. You're not learning to drive. You're just learning to keep your focus. But learning to drive is like when you drive in traffic jams, or accidents, or speed breakers, or blockades, or obstacles, or accidents. That's when you're really learning to test yourself as a driver. That's the key. So remember, if you have to grow in career, every challenge which comes to you, look at as a challenge, as an opportunity to resolve, and how do I find a way out? Now, in the way out, there could be friends to guide. There could be rules to support you. There could be upskilling to do. There could be your own reflection. There could be family support. It's the solution lies with you. Look for the solution. Do not waste your time and complaining and sulking over the lack of opportunity or of the problem. Every opportunity, obstacle comes with its own solution. You have to focus on the solution. That's what I did. I've had tremendous, in fact, there's a book full of this of me, which I recently released last year, was Fearless Governance, which was Lieutenant Governor of Puducherry. You have to read that book. How I dealt with the politicians. There was not a day when they did not badmouth me in the newspapers. I found that as an opportunity to counter them daily. And they got sick of me. They got sick of me कि ये तो हमें जवाब रोज दे देती है. What did I do? For me, you've given me an opportunity to counter you. Sometimes I would let it pass, depending, choosing my battles. Sometimes I didn't. And I used my social media to the maximum. I used to tweet. I used to put it on Facebook. I used to put a news clip. I found my own ways of doing it. So every adversity, every statement they made, and I used to keep a clipping of it, and that made my book. You see, if I had not retained my documentation, where would I have had the book? So remember, you never know what follows, but everything, look at it with an attitude of opportunity and saying, how do I resolve it? And the toolkit should be pretty good. Toolkit is family, toolkit is friends, toolkit is your own department, toolkit is your skill, toolkit is your perseverance, toolkit is your reflection, toolkit is your own meditation, toolkit is your spiritual power. These are your toolkits. Use these, but keep them sharpened. These toolkits should always be available to you, sharpened and available. Your friends, they are your toolkit. So you never know in which challenge, which toolkit will help for you. But don't get stuck with the problem. I never got stuck with the problem. If you want to read how I resolved issues, that Fearless Governance is a book downloadable even from my website. I'm not asking you to buy the book. You can download my book from my website and read it free. I'll be happy you read, because you will read the leadership skills I displayed dealing with 5 years as Lieutenant Governor of Puducherry. And guess what? After the whole work, when I was transferred back, the President of India specially called me and gave me a roll of honor, a baton of honor, never done before. Never. So this is how you continue to work. Because I went on, sometimes it meant even litigation. Sometimes they blocked a whole. Let me, since you talked about bravery, I'll give you a brave act. I'll give you a copy of the Brave Act. The government of the day did not appoint 3 MLAs appointed by the government of India. 3 MLAs, 3 men were appointed as nominated MLAs to the State Assembly of Puducherry by the government of India. They could do this by law. For weeks together, now 3 MLAs coming into the assembly tilts the balance of the numbers elected and nominated and others, opposition and incumbent. It tilts the balance. It means it was almost making it nearing equal. So once this was done, they did not nominate. They came crying to me. The entire bureaucracy did not appoint them for some reason or the other. Government of India was very disturbed. Why are our 3 nominated MLAs not being appointed when it was within their power? So they kept challenging. Government had no power. Government of India had no power. Chief Minister was bad-mouthing everybody. I read the law. As Lieutenant Governor, when I read the law, and they came to see me, they said, ma'am, humko koi appoint nahi kar raha, humko kuch ho nahi raha, we are wasting so much time. I said, do you want to be appointed? Do you want to be? They said, yes. I said, then on one condition. I can appoint you now, right now, but there will be no fanfare. There will be no public tamasha. There will be no media. Because outside there was a lot of demonstration going on against them. And the next day, Pondicherry was heading for a bandh against them. So when they came to me, I said, look, I'm willing to show you the way, provided you follow. They said, yes, ma'am, we'll go. I said, okay, speak on the video, the video camera, what you want. So they said, we have been there, we've lost so many days, nobody has listened to us, we've not been appointed, and now we've come to request, because before they turn around, saying, oh, to usne apne aap kar diya, humne to kuch nahi kaha. So I said, please say it. So once I had that with me, I said, now stand before me. 3. I called my secretary and my team. I said, read the law. The law was very clearly, the Lieutenant Governor can nominate them and give them the oath of nomination. So when I read it, I said, now take the oath. So they took the oath, 3 of them before me. 3 of them before me. Only my Lieutenant Governor camera, no relatives, no Rahu Kals, no Bala Kals. I said, no Rahu Kals, etc. You stand here, take it. So they took the oath, appointed. They signed the appointment oath. And only one photograph of the Lieutenant Governor's office. Outside was a barrage of media waiting, what's going to happen? 3 MLAs are meeting the Lieutenant Governor. Let us see what happens. I appointed them. There was the law. There was a rule. Tum haso ya ro, mujhe ko farak nahi padta. Mere paas to kaanoon hai na. So this is what happened. The government of India was thrilled. I have not obliged anybody. I followed the law. I studied the law. I studied the rule. I didn't start saying, complaining to the President of India, they're not doing it. I read the law. I read the rule. I read the act to them. And I asked them if you accept it. This was nothing but a clear, assertive, brave act. Now, how did it happen? It comes by practice. It comes by habit. It comes by character, where you do these battles, these small wins every day. And this win was no big deal for me, because I read the law, I knew, and then the next day there was no bandh, because they said, ab kya karna, wo to appoint ho gaye. See, so, and the politicians of the class did not know where to look. What I'm saying is, it suddenly, courage, bravery does not suddenly appear. Practice it every day in little decisions, and at home, or practice, but with wisdom. With wisdom, it was nothing reckless about it. I'm not showing you to be reckless. I'm not showing to be hurting people. I'm telling you what is within your capability. Apply that. Don't run away from that.
Your life definitely is filled with examples that we can all carry back into our lives, and I'm sure the audience has a lot of questions that they want to ask you. But before I hand over the mic to the MC to facilitate questions from the audience, there's a short poem that AI has generated for you. So we prompted AI to generate a short poem on you, and I would like to end with that. It reads, "A name etched in honor, a spirit so bold. Kiran Bedi, a story yet to be old. In a world carved for men, a woman she stood, for justice and fairness, a force for the good. With eyes filled with kindness, a heart full of might, she shattered the glass, a beacon so bright. From streets calmed to reforms that took root, her legacy blossoms, a life-bearing fruit. So here's to the woman who broke every chain, an inspiration for all, sunshine or rain. May her courage ignite us, her integrity bind, leaving footprints of hope for all humankind."